My name is Dana McAllister, and I want you to picture something before I tell you this story. Picture your bridal shower, the good china, the mimosas, the game where everyone writes down a memory and reads it aloud, the toast, the cake, your 15-year best friend in a pale blue wrap dress holding a wine glass and crying the kind of tears that make everyone in the room reach for their napkins. Now, picture finding out 3 days before your wedding that at that same shower, while you were in the bathroom, that same woman in the pale blue dress turned to 4 of your closest friends and 2 of your cousins and said, "I just want you to know I totally get why Ryan is having doubts. She can be a lot. She can be a lot. About me, at my shower, by my best friend." I sat with that information for exactly 1 hour. Then I opened my wedding planning binder and I started with the guest list. Courtney and I met sophomore year at Franklin High School in Franklin, Tennessee. She sat behind me in AP English and spent the first 2 weeks flicking the back of my chair with her pen until I finally turned around and told her to stop. She laughed. We were inseparable within a month. 15 years. Every major milestone. She was there when I got into Vanderbilt. I was there when her dad got sick. She was there when I met Ryan at a work conference in Nashville in 2019. I was there when she went through a breakup that she said nearly broke her. We were the kind of friends who didn't have to explain our history to anyone because the history was everywhere, in every story, in every memory. When Ryan proposed in December of 2021, Courtney was the first person I called. She screamed. Real screaming. She drove to my apartment that night with champagne, and we stayed up until 2 a.m. looking at venues on my laptop. She was my maid of honor before I even asked her, because it was never a question. It had always been Courtney. Ryan and I got engaged on a December evening, and by March of 2022, something in the engagement had shifted. Ryan was quieter, more hesitant. He said he was stressed about the planning. I believed him. We were planning a wedding. Stress was appropriate. What I did not know was that by March, Courtney had been texting Ryan for 3 months. Before I go any further, drop your city and drop a number in the comments. The number of years you were friends with the person who ended up doing the thing you're going to tell me about, because I think the length of time is part of what makes it hit the way it does. 15 years is not nothing. 15 years is half your life. Drop it below. I am going to tell you what Courtney was doing for 8 months, and I need you to hear it without the word that is going to come to your mind. Because what she was doing was worse than that word, and also more complicated. She was not pursuing Ryan. She was not trying to break us up for her own benefit in that obvious sense. What she was doing was something slower and more insidious. She was being Ryan's safe space for his doubts. She had decided at some point in early 2022 that she had concerns about Ryan and me as a couple. She may have genuinely believed those concerns were valid. And rather than coming to me, her best friend, the person she had known for 15 years, she went to him. She texted Ryan to check on him. She told him she understood that big life decisions were scary and that his feelings were valid. She offered him perspective on our relationship from the outside, her perspective, her read of me, her version of my patterns and my tendencies, and my history of being, in her word, a lot. She framed herself as the neutral party, the one who loved us both, the one who could see clearly. For 8 months, Ryan had a back channel into my life through my best friend. Every frustration he had, she validated. Every doubt he expressed, she honored. And I, who was planning a wedding, managing a full-time job, and navigating a fiancé who was increasingly distant in ways I couldn't explain, had no idea. I found out at 11:23 a.m. on a Thursday in early April, 3 days before the wedding, when my cousin Aisha called me from her car in a Target parking lot and said,
Dana, I have been holding this for 3 weeks and I cannot hold it anymore.
Aisha told me what she had heard at the bridal shower. She had been in a cluster of guests near the dessert table. My two closest work friends, my cousin Maya, and two of my college roommates. Courtney had come over with her wine, and the conversation had been warm and happy until someone mentioned that Ryan had seemed a little quiet lately. And Courtney had tilted her head, and I know exactly the tilt Aisha means. I have seen that tilt for 15 years. And she had said, he's going through a lot. I mean, they both are, but I'll be honest, I totally get why he has doubts. Dana can be a lot. She always has been. And Ryan is just such a steady person. I think he's just processing what it means to commit to her energy forever. Then she smiled, the way you smile when you have said something you believe, and are hoping it lands as honesty rather than cruelty. She said that at my bridal shower, to my guests, while I was in the bathroom. And then she came back to the table and helped me open gifts and laughed at the funny ones and cried at the sentimental ones. And I had no idea. Not one idea. I sat in my kitchen after Aisha's call, and I thought about 15 years, about every confidence I had shared with Courtney about Ryan, every frustration I had vented, every moment of doubt I had expressed, because that is what you do with your best friend. You tell her when things are hard, and you trust she holds it for you. She had not held it for me. She had handed it to him. I gave myself 1 hour. And then I opened the binder. I am an organized person. My mother will tell you that I have been organized since I was 7 years old, when I started keeping a planner for my chore schedule. So when Ryan and I got engaged, I bought a wedding planning binder, a real one, 3 inches thick, tabbed and color-coded, and I put everything in it. Venue contracts, caterer menus, seating charts, the florist's sketches, the guest list with +1s noted, everything. Courtney had helped me build that binder. She sat at my kitchen table on multiple Sunday afternoons and helped me organize sections and laughed at me for the color coding. She was in the acknowledgement section, a page I had made, embarrassingly, titled Thank Yous Before the Day, where I had written notes to the people helping me build the wedding. Her note said, 15 years and you are still the person I call first. Thank you for helping me build this. Thank you for being you. I opened the binder the morning after Aisha called. I turned to the thank you page. I read what I had written to Courtney. I sat with it for a moment, and then I turned to the guest list. The binder was for building the wedding I had imagined. What I understood now was that some of the things I had put in that binder no longer belonged in it, and I was not going to walk down the aisle carrying things that didn't belong. Here is what I did in the 3 days between Aisha's call and my wedding day. First, I called Ryan, not to fight. To be honest, I called him that I had become aware that he had been in communication with Courtney about his doubts in our relationship for the duration of our engagement. I told him I needed to know, before we stood at that altar, whether he was standing there because he chose me or because he hadn't found a reason to leave yet. It was the most direct conversation we had ever had. He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, and this is the sentence I will keep for the rest of my life, he said, Dana, I am standing at that altar because there is nowhere else I want to be. I should have come to you instead of her. That is on me, and I am sorry. We talked for 2 hours, we cried, we agreed that some things needed to change and that Courtney was not someone we were going to continue centering in our life together. Second, I removed Courtney from the wedding guest list. Not the wedding party, she had already been standing in the wedding party for 15 months. I removed her from the guest list, which meant she was not invited as a guest and was not standing in the party, which meant she was not at the wedding. I called her. I told her, calmly, specifically, without any room for reinterpretation, what I knew and why I was making this decision.
She cried. She said she was just trying to help. I said, Courtney, you told my guests at my bridal shower that you understood why my fiancé had doubts about me. That is not helping me. That is deciding whose side you're on without telling me there were sides. She did not have an answer for that. Third, I called my florist and asked her to make one adjustment to the ceremony arrangements. Then I went and got married. My wedding day was April 9th, 2022, a Saturday. The venue was a barn outside of Franklin with string lights and wildflowers and the kind of light that comes through old wood in the late afternoon, like it has somewhere to be and is not rushing. Courtney was not there. She found out from another member of the original wedding party, a woman named Jade, who I had called the week before to explain the change and ask for her discretion, which Jade honored completely. Jade told me later that when Courtney called her the morning of the wedding asking for logistics, Jade had said, "Court, I think you need to call Dana." And Courtney had said, "What does that mean?" And Jade had said, "It means I can't help you today." Courtney called me at 8:47 a.m. on my wedding day. I did not answer. She called Ryan. He did not answer. She texted my mother. My mother texted back 3 words, "Not today, Courtney." I walked down the aisle at 4:15 p.m. in a dress I had picked without her and toward a man who had chosen me without her permission, and I married him in front of every person who had shown up for us, not for the version of us that Courtney had decided she understood better than we did. The florist adjustment I had made, there had been a bouquet reserved for the maid of honor at the altar. I asked her to replace it with a single white ranunculus in a bud vase with a note that said, "For the ones who were here." It was for my grandmother, who had passed the year before and who I had always meant to find a way to honor. That felt right. That felt like the right thing to put in the space where something false had been. Courtney's version of events, which circulated through the mutual friend network over the following weeks, was that I had made a rash decision driven by a misunderstanding, and that she had been blindsided by being removed from the wedding. She said she had only been trying to support Ryan because she was worried about the relationship and wanted to help. She said she had never meant for any of it to hurt me. She posted, obliquely on Instagram, the familiar quote cards about intentions and misunderstandings and being misread by people you love. One of those quote cards said, "Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who hurt you without meaning to." I let it sit for 3 weeks. I did not respond publicly. I did not engage. I let the quote card live on the internet with no comment from me, which meant it had no story attached to it, just a sentiment floating in a context that nobody outside our circle could verify. Then Jade, who had been at the shower and who had seen what Courtney said at the dessert table, posted a comment under the quote card. She wrote, "I was at the bridal shower. I know what happened." That was all. She did not elaborate. She did not explain. She left 4 words and let the people who knew know. Courtney deleted the post within 2 hours. I had not asked Jade to do that. I had not coordinated it. Jade did it because she had been at a shower, and she had heard something said in a room, and she was tired of watching someone else reframe what she had witnessed. That is what truth does when you leave it alone long enough. It finds its own way out.
I want to tell you about the conversation Ryan and I had 6 months after the wedding, because this is the part of the story where the full picture finally assembled itself. Ryan showed me the texts, not because I asked, not because we were fighting or revisiting the past. He showed me because he had been carrying them, and he said he thought I should know the whole of what he had been given and the whole of what he had been steered with. Courtney had been texting Ryan since January of 2022. The early texts were friendly, checking in, asking about the proposal, congratulating him. But by March, they had shifted. She had begun asking him how he was really feeling. She had told him that wedding planning brought up a lot for people. She had said specifically that she loved me, but that she had also known me for 15 years and that she knew I had patterns that could be hard to live with long term. She said she just wanted him to go into this with clear eyes about my patterns,
from my best friend to my fiancé, for 8 months. I read every text. I did not cry. I did not say anything for a long time. Then I said to Ryan, "She never said any of this to me." And he said, "I know. I think that's what she was counting on." And we sat with that for a while. There is a particular kind of loneliness in understanding that someone who knew you well used that knowledge against you. It is not the same as a stranger's cruelty. A stranger doesn't know which parts of you to press. A 15-year best friend does. She knew exactly which parts to press. She pressed them carefully, patiently, for 8 months. And Ryan told me anyway.
First wave. Courtney was not at my wedding. She did not give the speech she had written and practiced and revised 3 times, according to Jade, who had heard parts of it. She did not stand at the altar. She did not have the photos. She attended none of the moments she had spent 15 months helping plan. She was home alone on April 9th, and I was at the most beautiful barn outside Franklin, Tennessee, with every person who had ever actually chosen me. Second wave, the mutual friend network. It is a small thing, a comment left under a deleted post, but small things in small networks move with a particular velocity. The people who were at that shower knew what Jade meant, and over time, without any effort from me, the story that circulated among our shared friends was not Courtney's version. It was Jade's 4 words. And 4 words from someone who was there carry more weight than 100 words from someone who wants to reframe what happened. Third wave, Ryan. Ryan had been given a back channel into our relationship through Courtney for 8 months. When that back channel closed, when Courtney was removed from the picture entirely, Ryan and I had to figure out how to communicate without a third party absorbing our doubts. It was harder, initially, and it was the best thing that could have happened to our marriage. We figured it out. We talk to each other now. That is not nothing. Fourth wave. 2 years later, Courtney got engaged herself. I know this through mutual connections. She asked a mutual friend to reach out to me to see if I would be willing to attend. I sent a card. A nice card, actually. I genuinely wished her well. I did not attend. And the woman she asked to be her maid of honor, because Courtney was always going to need a best friend for that role, was a woman she had met 2 years prior, not someone who had known her for 15 years. Someone new. Someone who did not know the full shape of her yet. I thought about that, about what it means to start over with someone who doesn't know you yet, about whether she would do the same things to this new person's Ryan that she did to mine. I hope not. I genuinely hope not. But I also thought, that is not my concern anymore. That is someone else's story to live. Fifth wave. The florist, the bud vase, the white ranunculus, my grandmother's name in the program where the maid of honor's name had been. I looked at that program after the ceremony was over, and I thought, this is the right story, not the one I planned with Courtney, this one, the true one, the one where the space that opened up when I removed something false got filled with something real. That is always what happens. When you remove what isn't true, there is room for what is. Ryan and I have been married for 3 years. We live in Nashville now. We moved the year after the wedding because I got a job offer I couldn't pass up, and Ryan said, "Let's go," which is the kind of man he is. We have a small house in East Nashville with a backyard that we are slowly turning into something we like, which mostly means we argue cheerfully about which plants are going where, and Ryan wins because he does most of the physical work, and I win because I am right about the aesthetic. We talk to each other. We have learned in the 3 years since the engagement how to bring things to each other instead of around each other. Ryan has a therapist he sees monthly. I have one I see bi-monthly. Neither of us has found a substitute Courtney because neither of us was looking for one. We have good people around us now, people we chose slowly, people who have not given us a reason to doubt the choice. Jade is still in my life. She texts me on my birthday, and I text her on hers, and we grab dinner when one of us is in the other city. She never made a big deal of what she did with the Instagram comment. She said once, "I was just tired of watching her rewrite what I saw." That is enough. That is all it needed to be. I still have the wedding binder.
The thank you page is still in it. I did not remove Courtney's note. I didn't white it out or cross it through or tear it out. I left it exactly where it is, because it was true when I wrote it. I did call her first. She was my person. That was real. What happened after was also real. And I have decided that I can hold both of those things at the same time, without letting either one of them become the whole story. People ask me whether I regret removing Courtney from the wedding, and I want to answer that carefully because it is more complicated than yes or no. Do I regret that the friendship ended? Yes, genuinely. 15 years is 15 years, and the loss of it is real, and I have grieved it the way you grieve something that mattered. Do I regret the decision? No, because the decision was not about punishment. I did not remove her from the wedding because I wanted to hurt her. I removed her because I finally understood what she believed about me, that I was something to be managed, explained, apologized for, and I understood that a woman who believed that about me had no place standing at my altar. You do not get to attend the ceremony of a life you were quietly trying to talk someone out of. That is the line I keep coming back to. That is the thing I want to leave you with. The people who belong at the altar are the ones who have been rooting for the marriage, not managing it from the outside, not validating the doubt, rooting for it. I looked out at the people in that barn on April 9th, and every single person there was rooting for us. I could feel it. I still feel it when I think about it. That is what I got when I removed what didn't belong. A room full of people who were entirely, completely, unreservedly there for us. That was worth every hard thing that led to it. If you made it to the end of this, thank you. Drop a comment. Tell me what hit you the hardest. I read every single one. Subscribe to Karma Delivered. Every story on this channel is true in the ways that matter, and karma always, always finds her way. Stay solid.